And I believe we're live right now.
Okay.
And it's connecting. It will let me know when it's connected. Hopefully I won't cut you off like I've done some guests before. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want it to echo, so let me see. We're live right now. Yes. There we go.
Robert, are you there?
Got it. Okay. I think I left you in the room all by yourself for a minute. You hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. I got it. Anyway, I apologize to my audience and you and everybody that may be tuning into this or may tune into this interview later. This is like the third or fourth time I've done this where I cut off the stream by accident because I was trying to cut off this echo or whatever, and I ended up cutting off the stream. And anyhow, I apologize. Thank you for being so patient, Mr. Steve Wells. As I told you before, yes, I'm an African American. Obviously, I live in Norway. I've been here since 2012. I've been interviewing people that are that interest me, and also some people that I think that are very, would be very interesting for others, and also, depending on the subject matter and depending on the events of the time. That I find interesting, I just kind of reach out to people and see if they're available to talk to, and I just do that. So like I said, I've interviewed some atheists, Egyptologists, historians, civil rights activists, of the like. And today we have Steve Wells, the creator of the Skeptic's Annotated Bible, which I've had for a while. The creator of the website, the Skeptics Annotated Bible.com, and also author of books Strange Flesh, Bible of Homosexuality, how the Bible's justified anti-gay bigotry, depending on who you talk to, or supporting it. Speaking of, I don't know if you heard, here in Norway, just the other day, we've had a tragedy out here. That's not too far from where I live, probably like a 5-minute walk. There was an so-called Islamic extremist. He shot up a bar called the London Pub, which is a known gay bar pub, and also the pub adjacent to it, next door to it, called Har på hjørnet, I think. Par på hjørnet, on the corner. And what's crazy about it was, about a week ago, I was just hanging out there at the pub next to the London Pub, and met some friends there. And I actually thought it was going to be a nice second local bar that I would frequent. They had some former poker players I talked to, and other interesting people. And it was just sad to hear about both of these places being shot up from Islamic extremists because of how he was about, with the subject of homosexuality in the LGBTQ community. We had the Pride Festival going on yesterday. And so it happened the night before. And so they canceled the next day the huge the also Pride Festival, which was planned and scheduled. But even though they did that, the turnout was huge. Despite and I also myself went and supported that. And I was often say that I should have been more vocal about when it came to the oppression of the LGBTQ community, which I haven't. Mainly, I've always focused on racism, white supremacy, religious persecution, patriarchy, and stuff like that. But rarely have I, put my focus on that other subject. Anyway, so you've written this book called Strange Flesh. Yeah, in the Bible, homosexuality. Could you talk just a little bit about that right there?
Yeah, that was what I was trying to do in that book, is just to show how the Bible is used on both sides of the debate.
Yeah.
Christians use it to condemn homosexuality, and well, some Christians do. And then other Christians use the Bible to try to say that no, the Bible doesn't condemn homosexuality. In fact, it is approving of homosexuality.
Right.
And so I tried to find all of the verses in the Bible that dealt with it and that are used on one side or the other.
Right. And also, and the reason why I highlighted that is because of the recent events that happened, of course. Drunk with Blood is another book, the God's killings in the Bible. He also runs a blog, dwindling in unbelief.blogspot.com. He also is fairly active on his Twitter, Steve Wells SAB. Yeah, and I've seen your picture, but I haven't seen you really live. I've seen audio only from a couple of so you're not all over the place, but you are some places. I saw you on YouTube at a couple of places. My fellow Oklahoman, Seth Andrews, might I add, because I'm from Oklahoma as well, on the Thinking Whether He Knows About Me or Not. I tend to think he does a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure. The Thinking Atheist radio podcast, which was audio only, number 145, January 15th, 2014. And then the other one with, I think, Hemta Meta is his name.
Yeah.
Or the Friendly Atheist podcast, audio only as well, on the YouTube channel, The Atheist Voice, which I was also going to try to interview at some point, which was published November 2014. So 2014 was your year that you were kind of out there promoting the book, or was that a year that book came out, correct? Or
I'm not sure when I'm not sure when Drunk with Blood came out. The SAB came out in 2013, so it was soon after that. I think Drunk with Blood was 2010.
Okay.
And I don't know when Strange Flesh came out, but somewhere 14, 15 in that area.
Okay. Yeah, because the reason I said that, because in that same year you had two interviews that are kind of on, somewhat known, well, now they're more popular, atheist podcasts or YouTube channels. And even with that, you only had audio only. So were there any interviews that you've done where you showed your face and that are kind of known
Well, I don't think so. There may have been one or two, but they were pretty small.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in a rare space right now.
Yes, that's right.
All right. And so yeah, and so in this Skeptic's Annotated Bible here, it's very, very nicely done, the binding, everything. And you even got an endorsement here. Well, Sam Harris, the famous atheist, the author of the New York Times bestseller, The End of Faith, The Moral Landscape, Letter to a Christian Nation, and Free Will. He says, finally, Wells has published his famous online resource in book form. This volume belongs in every thinking person's library, in every hotel room in America. I agree with that. And you started this online, correct?
Yes.
Before it turned to book form.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I see that it is a very meticulous written book, and where you have chronicled and separated many different sections and the different themes like absurdity, every jot and tittle, injustice, cruelty and violence, intolerance, good stuff, contradiction, science and history, family values, interpretation, women, sex, prophecy, language, boring stuff, homosexuality, and politics, which seem very helpful for us who wants to get right into what the section of what we want to find out. Now, did you what's your background when it comes to being, where you're a former Christian believer, minister, pastor, or related to a pastor?
Yeah, no, I'm not related to a pastor. I came from a family that was really pretty much non-believers. Yeah. At least I think my dad was an atheist. My mom was just kind of vaguely Protestant, but not serious about religion. Yeah. By the time I was 12 or so, I considered myself an atheist and would argue with anybody, any of my friends or anybody that believed in God, or and that continued through high school. But then my sister became a Catholic, and we were pretty close, my older sister. And so I started going to mass.
So as a child, you were always skeptical.
Yeah, really through high school. But okay. Then when I graduated from high school, I read the New Testament. Well, I read the Gospels anyway, but I think maybe the entire New Testament. And at the same time, I was influenced by my sister, who was a Catholic convert. And eventually I talked myself into believing. I just jumped right into it. And I went all the way. I went gung-ho. I wanted to be a priest. In fact, I wanted to be a traditionalist Catholic priest, the old Mass and the Latin Mass and all that. Right. So I ended up going to the seminary. The seminary of Archbishop Lefebvre's, the guy that was excommunicated for because of the old Mass and all that.
Right. Now it's funny you mentioned that. Some of my background on my mother's side is from New Orleans, so we have a lot of parishes there. My grandfather told me at one time he wanted me and my brother to at one point in time become a priest, but yeah. So I definitely know about. I took catechism, and I definitely know about that side of the Christianity. But go ahead.
So I got baptized and decided I wanted to be a priest. Went to the seminary, and then really in the seminary, it started to come back on me. How my belief started to crumble when we started talking about evolution and the existence of hell. Particularly the existence of hell. That was something I just couldn't get over, and they took it really seriously. Hell was a real thing to them, and if you weren't Catholic, you were pretty much guaranteed to go to hell. There was no salvation outside the Catholic Church, and so that meant that all of my family and most of my family and pretty much all of my friends, people that I have known, would be going to hell, and I couldn't get over that. And so I ended up leaving the seminary. I was still a Catholic, but I felt like I had enough. Those things bothered me enough that I didn't feel like I could be an effective priest. So I left the seminary, ended up teaching in Catholic schools, very traditionalist Catholic schools, and ended up marrying a Catholic, and we ended up bringing up 4 kids. Would have had a lot more, except for it finally came back to me. My atheism finally overwhelmed me. My doubts finally overwhelmed me. And I remember the exact moment. Actually, my wife and I were coming back on a camping trip, and I remember saying to her, I'm not going to pretend any longer that I believe this. That I'm a believer, that I'm a Catholic. Right. And that was in 1989. Our youngest son. We had 4 children. Our youngest, it was only like 6 months old or so at the time. So they were all baptized, and we were a Catholic family and everything until that moment. And then my wife, who was brought up in a traditionalist Catholic family, really had that was really hard on her. Right. Understandably. but it was amazing. It only lasted like maybe a few weeks. And then she said, I don't believe this either. And so she just left. She just became an atheist and never looked back. Her family was pretty upset about it, but she was, she and I were both in agreement. And then what happened was my sister, remember the sister,
and not only your wife, you're responsible for a lot of atheists, I believe. A lot of people use your work. I must say, like we named one, Hemta Metta from the the Atheist Voice YouTube channel, where he goes right through your.
He's doing a great job.
Yeah, doing a great job. He's going right through your work right now, word for word, every jot and tittle now. But yeah, go ahead.
I didn't know that. I'd seen that he'd been working his way through the Bible, and he's like somewhere in Numbers now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's going. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but I mean, he's going through the Bible, every jot and tittle. But he uses your word very, very, very often, which is a good thing. And like I said, you influence a lot of people. Influenced me some, for sure. So I'm sure there's a lot more of them out there.
Yeah, well, I hope so. The main thing is if people just become familiar with the Bible.
Yeah.
Those who believe in it and those who don't, then I think really there'll be very few that will believe in it any longer. You can't read the Bible.
Because that was
when I was a believer, I tried. I just couldn't get through. I couldn't get through Leviticus. There's just no way I could do it.
Because that was one question I was going to ask. What was your intention, your intention or goals behind creating this book, the Skeptic's Bible, basically the Atheist Bible?
Yeah, well, what happened was my sister, the one that kind of influenced me to become a Christian and then a Catholic, ended up becoming a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to talk her out of that, before she had actually done it. And I figured, the only way I can really do that is if I read the dang thing,
Right.
So I just started reading the Bible from Genesis, and it wasn't very long before I decided, you know what, I would like to go through the Bible, verse by verse, and present the Bible from a skeptic's point of view.
Right.
So the idea of the SAB occurred to me when I first read the Bible.
Right.
When I read the Bible for the first time, I thought, that's never been done before.
Right.
It's a great project. I'm going to do it. So that was probably in about 1989, soon after I became an atheist.
Okay. Now, what I do like is that you, on the website, Skeptics, Annotededbible.com, that you, which this is the book form, and on the website he has it on the website, which was where it was originated, and also that you do updates. That's what I love about it, is that you constantly go back there and update the information that you have. And I forgot to mention that you also work on the Book of Mormons and also the Quran. And now I think you're more heavily onto the Quran right now. Correct?
Yeah. What happened, Robert, was I was I was revising the SAB, the Bible, and I completely really redid the Bible, working my way through it so that I summarize what the Bible is actually saying, rather than just highlighting the verses like I had in the past.
Right.
So it's kind of a different format than what I had before.
Okay.
And I do plan on creating the new book in that new format soon, in the next year or so. We're hoping to come out with a new edition of the SAB.
Okay, nice.
But then after I did that, then I did it with the Book of Mormon. And then now I'm working so I finished that. Now I'm working my way through the Quran. I'm about halfway through the Quran now.
Okay. And, and I read somewhere in the comment section, a couple of questions I got from there. as well. Do you read Koine Greek or ancient
No,
Hebrew? No. Okay,
no,
got
no,
you,
no.
got you, got you, got you, got you. You know, some people would say when it comes to the interpretation of the Bible, you know, to consider the historical context or the cultural context sometimes.
Sure.
What do you say to that? You know, especially some apologists, you know, some people that want to that yeah, we'll hear about the Skeptic's Annotated Bible and how you interpret it or how an atheist may interpret it or whatnot. And then some people will try to justify uh, or make it plausible by saying something like, oh, that you know, you have to take into consideration the historical context of the time or cultural context of the time and some of these, and a lot of these verses. What would you say to that little bit?
Yeah, well, I think that's a good point, and I think it's certainly true that you should try to take the Bible and put it back into the context in which it was written. That's fair enough. But the problem with that is that there's no context which most of the objectionable parts of the Bible can be justified. You can put it back into a time period where cultures were generally cruel and intolerant, and so the Bible is cruel and intolerant, and it's not surprising that it is, but it doesn't justify it either. If you look at Exodus 22:18 says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." You know what that says is kill witches, and there's no context you can put that into that you can say, yeah, well, that's okay, that's understandable, nothing wrong with that. It was wrong then. People didn't know that it was wrong then, but we certainly know that it's wrong now. So there's no justification for. You could do the same thing with slavery. You could say that, you know.
Now you're hitting on the point where I was about to get into, because being African American, those were some of the subjects that, you know, I mainly kind of focused on, reeled in on, was the slavery and as such.
Yeah. Same argument can be made there, which is an invalid argument, I think.
No. No, I saw one of the weirdest that I didn't realize that was in the Bible until I ran into the Skeptic's Annotated Bible, was the story with the bears and the children.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't realize that. I was like, damn, I didn't. I was like,
that's a funny story. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, but it's
I don't care what context that was. I was like, that don't make no damn sense right there.
No. Yeah, the funny thing is too, that's only 2 verses. That whole thing takes place in just 2 verses.
Right. Man. And I heard you say something about how apologists always try to make contradictions to sound plausible doing a very good job.
Yeah.
And I've heard I couldn't name none right off the bat. I know a couple of them that are pretty damn good out, you know, that are out there. Anyway, are there any, speaking of, have anybody, I'm sure there was people that probably try to challenge you or to a debate, certain apologists or whatnot. And I think I've heard you at one point say that you don't really get into those things.
Yeah, I would be trounced by any good apologist. You know, that's a really clever preacher, speaker. I wouldn't have a chance against them because they're such effective speakers.
Right.
So I haven't done any public debating. I've done a lot of online stuff. You know, I debate people online in words, written words. That I enjoy. Right. We have a pastor here in our town who is famous throughout the country and really worldwide, Doug Wilson. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh, okay. I haven't really, because I know some of the top ones I know is William Lane Craig. And there's one called James White, who's very good. But Doug Wilson,
he's not really an apologist exactly. Well, he is, but he's mostly a leader that leads a group of people who believe that the Bible should be. He wrote a book called Southern Slavery as It Was, which was a justification of slavery, and he just said flat out that that if you're a Christian, you must believe that slavery is permitted. You know, the Bible permits slavery, and you must permit it as well. And he believes that homosexuals should be executed, that disobedient children should be executed. I mean, he goes that far. Everything in the Old Testament that isn't contradicted by the New, you know, that Jesus didn't change, should be imposed just as written. And so he's a real presence in our town, Moscow, Idaho. And so I did spend quite a bit of time arguing with him online.
Right. There was another guy who's actually doing a pretty good job, more pretty in depth. He's and maybe you've heard of him. Fairly recent. He's produced a book. He has a good presence online. I think Dr. Joshua Bowman, I believe. He's talking about slavery in the Bible, and he's looking at I think he studies the ancient text or whatever. He's not a preacher or apologist. He's definitely on the I don't know if he's an atheist himself, but he has an online presence.
Did you say his name was Bowman?
I think so. Dr. Joshua Bowman, and
okay.
he's written a book that a lot of atheists it's called The Atheist Handbook. The Atheist Handbook.
Oh, I've seen
Slavery in the Bible, and I think he has 2 volumes or something like that.
I'll have to look that up.
Or 1 volume, and he's working on the second. But he's pretty. I know he was former Air Force, like myself. And he's a doctor now. And he gets into. He talks a lot about the ancient Sumerians and stuff like that. He gets into the ancient text, so a lot of people are looking at his work now, especially when it comes to slavery. An ancient text. He's a
I'll look him up. I'm not familiar with him, no.
So the and then also the I heard you say how the apologists always try to explain away the different genealogies of I'm always fascinated when I hear the different ways in which they try to justify and do that. So you said that you were and I might have cut you off plenty of times, I'm sure, but you said you were a believer at one point in time, Catholicism, and then after that, pretty much after you got out, you started this thing in about 1989 or whatnot, the website.
Right. And, the website didn't actually come up until 99.
Okay.
So I really went through the Bible by hand, and because the internet wasn't quite up and running by then.
True.
And so it was. It wasn't until 99 when what I did by hand, I converted into a website.
Now, have you did I have any more questions? Yeah, I didn't. Like I told you, I didn't have too many questions, as I noticed most of your interviews were under 30 minutes, so I didn't want to keep you up too long. But what are some of the things that you are working on? I think we already said a couple of them. The book, the revised book version of the website.
Yeah. I actually have 8 books in mind.
Wow. Okay.
So I want
any that you can mention?
Yeah, sure. So the SAB, the revised SAB.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna try to do a Skeptic's Annotated Book of Mormon, pretty much as the website, but put that in book form. Right. And then of course the Skeptic's Annotated Quran. Yeah, if I get brave enough. My family's not too wild about that.
I hear you. I don't, I hear you.
So
better you than me.
That's kind of a maybe. I think it should be done, and I think I'll probably do it, but I can't guarantee that one.
Right.
And then I have 3 that are similar, but what I'm going to do is the concise edition of the Bible, the Quran, and the Book of Mormon, where it will just have just the parts of the Bible that you need to know about, that everyone should know about. So there's a lot in the Bible that's repetitive and boring and uninteresting and unimportant. This would be just kind of the guts of the Bible, Book of Mormon, and Quran. So I think the Bible,
meat potatoes, just the meat potatoes.
That's right. And so I think the Bible, instead of being 1,600 pages, will probably be 400. The Book of Mormon will probably be 200, and the Quran will probably be 150 or so. That's kind of my goal there.
Right.
I have two more besides those, and one is every jot and tittle, which is all the commandments in the Bible, which I've already done, but I need to convert that into a book form.
Now, when you say that every jot and tittle, what is your theme? What are you trying to do? With that right there, because clearly you have absurdity, which verses are absurd, injustice, cruel, violence, intolerance, good stuff, contradiction. But when you say that EGAT, when you have the AGAT, every jot and tittle, what are you referring to? Could you explain that a little?
Yeah, that's a good question. The every jot and tittle is a phrase that Jesus used when he was when people were challenging him about his new teachings, and he said that I haven't come to change or do away, to abolish the old law. In fact, all of the old law, every jot and tittle, will remain in force until the end of time, pretty much. And so Jesus was saying that every jot and tittle, everything in the Old Testament, all those laws, all the laws of Moses would be in force forever. And so that's the phrase that's the title of the book, is every jot and tittle. And so this is something that the Jews have done in the past, where they've gone through and they've listed all the commandments in the Bible, and they come up with 613. That's their magic number. And they've stuck with it now for 1,000 years, and nobody has challenged it since Maimonides got them written down. So I went through, and I'm comparing my list to Maimonides' list, but including all the New Testament commandments as well. And so it's every jot and tittle is all the commandments in the Bible. That's what that is.
Okay.
And then I want to do one more that's on contradictions. And so those are the ones I'm working on now.
Now the contradictions one could reach, I don't know how many in total.
Could be 1,000. Could be 1,000 contradictions.
Right. Yeah. Now when somebody, that was another question. If somebody says, hearing this, I had a Christian ask me this. He said, well, do you think, or is there any good in the Bible? I mean, not a staunch Christian, but a person that follows Christianity because of family, tradition, all these things like that. And they hear me and see me always, talk about atheism or religious persecution and things like that. And they asked me that question. And I wanted to ask you the same. When somebody asks you, says, is there any good in the Bible?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure. There's good stuff. Leviticus 19:18 is probably the best verse in the Bible. Thou shalt love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
That's nice. The trouble is in the next chapter it says, Leviticus 20:13, it says that you have to execute homosexuals. So chapter 19 says this nice stuff about loving your neighbor, and then in the next chapter says you have to kill homosexuals. So yes, there are good things in the Bible, quite a few. I would say that you could make a pretty good pamphlet out of it that would include the good stuff in the Bible. But it's relatively, if you took all the verses and you marked everything you thought was good, you'd probably come up with less than 5% of the verses. Quite a bit less than 5% of the verses.
I heard many different things. I heard that what was it? Somebody said that one time that in the Bible they couldn't really, they haven't read anywhere where the devil made a lie or either killed anybody or made a lie or something like that.
Yeah.
Could you attest to that?
Sure. Yeah, that's probably true. The devil actually comes out as a pretty good guy in the Bible. Satan, there's only one. When I went through the killings of the Bible, there was only one killing that you could say, well, Satan was involved in, and that was the killing of Job and his family.
It's funny.
He didn't kill Job. I messed up there. He didn't kill Job. but he killed his family, his
Right.
children.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But the point being is, a lot of times you talk, you hear so many awful things about the devil, but when you really dive into the text, you rarely see him actually directly doing things,
Yeah,
as
almost
opposed to
never.
God
Yeah.
and stuff. And it kind of reminds me of this, being African American, the Harriet Beecher Stowe, Uncle Tom's Cabin. A lot of people always everybody talk about Uncle Tom, and they always say that he was a sellout or whatnot, and sold his people out. But it wasn't really Uncle Tom that was the one doing the wrongdoing. It was a character named Sambo in there. And so a lot of people, they just hear that word Uncle Tom. I don't know why I made that connection, but when they call somebody Uncle Tom, they actually use the term wrongly. When you actually got into the text, it wasn't Uncle Tom, it was Sambo who was doing all the evil and stuff like that. So I don't know, remind me of that. There was another question I was coming up with, but have you had trouble publishing the whenever you first put it to book form? Did you have any trouble initially on publishing the book?
Oh yeah. In fact, I pretty much gave up. There was a period in the 90s when I had gone through the Bible and I was ready to try to publish it, and I was looking for publishers, and I was getting some interest from Prometheus Books, but the main problem was, well, I'm not a Bible scholar, and so why would anyone want to publish something that just that some unknown guy did?
Right.
So I kind of gave up on it and just set it aside for a few years until the internet came up, and then I got the website up, and then I just published it myself after that.
Okay. Now, there was another passage in the Bible that I wanted to go over, and I don't have it in front of me. This thing I was going to ask, but what are some of the I guess top? Would you say top 3, 2, 3, 4, 5 passages, or top passage that you would say is the most weirdest, craziest passage in the Bible that you felt or seen? Was it the one that we went over with the bears and the children, or?
And that would be up in maybe the top 100 or so. It's a really good story, but there are so many. What I often do when I have somebody come to the door, like a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon missionary, or if I'm talking to an evangelical Christian, I'll try to get them to read Leviticus. I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 13, chapter 13, verses 6 through 10, because that passage it commands you, a person, to kill anyone who believes differently than they do. And they're to throw the first stone. They're to be stoned to death. And that your hand is to be the first to throw the stone, and your eyes shall not pity them. And so this is just anybody who believes in a God that you haven't been taught to believe in, you should stone to death. And it's just black and white, no question about it. That's what the verse says. And of course, I don't think it's possible to have an idea which is more abhorrent than that you should stone to death people who disagree with you.
Right.
So that's one that I find, I've never found anybody to read that and say, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I think we should do that.
As a literalist, right? Correct.
Yeah.
Now, there's one that I just reminded me, and especially living in Norway, because it's incorporated in the language here. The story of Onan.
Yeah.
Onan with the ejaculation.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
That part that struck me when I went across it, and I was like, hold up. Because it was, I don't hear him using it now, but it's still in the Norwegian language, and usually I think the older generation may have said it, but they still use it these days. I think onanera means to ejaculate. Yeah. And the origin of Onan, from the story of ejaculation in the Bible, I found that fascinating. I pointed that out to some Norwegians; they never knew that. Although there are a few, of course, but there was definitely a good amount of people, especially the younger generation, had no clue. about that I found that to be very interesting when I read that story, and also was linked to the actual language of Norwegian to ejaculate. And
yeah, Catholics often use that as a euphemism for masturbation when they go to confession. They say, I committed the sin of owning.
Right. But yeah, so no, I think that will wrap up this short interview, as I told you it would be. Yeah, I'm trying to jog my brain right now if there was anything that I missed while I have you on the horn. Nah, I don't think so. But I appreciate you taking your time to and you said you're in Idaho area. The
Right.
yeah, right. I appreciate you taking your time to discuss this with me. Guys, gals, children, whoever may be watching this, you have to check this out. The Skeptic's Annotated Bible, check out the website. He will be coming out with a new version of this, revised version of this, as well as the plenty of other books, as he said in this video. You can go to the Real Nordic, go to his. I'll leave links underneath this video once I publish it and post it, to your Dwindling in Unbelief blogspot.com, Twitter, and the website. So all the information that are linked to you, I'll put on it here. But I really appreciate it, sir, and I think that would be our time. So any last words?
No, I think that was great. Nice talking to you.
Yeah. All right, sir. All right, you have